You're watching CW18. The comedy gets rolling with Raymond at 10:30. But now, WESH 2 News on CW18 with Sion Rhodes and Tony Manalfi.
Right now at 10.
Tonight, terror at the Boston Marathon.
It sounded like a huge cannon went off.
Both of us, we've been to Afghanistan. You expect that. I didn't expect that here.
The American people will say a prayer for Boston tonight.
Complete coverage of the first terror attacks on U.S. soil since September 11th. Plus, new accounts from Central Florida runners who witnessed the chaos.
Local, live, late breaking. This is WESH 2 News on CW18 at 10 in high definition.
Tonight, a gruesome scene, chaotic aftermath, and a growing investigation into deadly terror attacks at the Boston Marathon. Good evening, I'm Sion Rhodes. Tonight, WESH 2 has learned an 8-year-old child is one of 3 people killed in the blast. More than 130 people were injured, and at least one person, a Saudi national, being questioned in the hospital in connection with the attacks. Nearly 27,000 runners flooded the streets of Boston for the 26.2-mile race. The twin explosions took place just seconds apart at the finish line, about 100 yards away from each other. The first blast horribly injured some, knocked others over, and sent others running for their lives. Smoke filled the air and mayhem ensued. And just 12 seconds later, a second explosion. Whoa! Something just blew up at... Run! Go! Blew up at... WESH 2 is live team coverage. Martha Zagowski takes us through the best images on social media. Stephanie Culp has witness accounts from local runners, but we begin with Katie Davis and breaking details from Boston.
It was a chaotic scene in Boston as 2 explosives simultaneously detonated near the finish line of the marathon. Counterterrorism officials tell NBC News that multiple explosive devices were found at the scene. They were timed to detonate at the height of the marathon as large crowds gathered near the finish line.
These explosions occurred 50 to 100 yards apart, and each scene resulted in multiple casualties.
Cameras were rolling as the explosions erupted near the main grandstand where spectators had gathered.
There was one right at the finish line. It was just this huge pile of smoke, and then it sounded like a huge cannon went off, and then another one just happened right across from us, and it was just this huge explosion, and there's just debris everywhere.
The remaining runners were diverted and the race canceled as emergency crews rushed in. President Obama addressed the nation.
We will find out who did this. We'll find out why they did this. Any responsible individuals, any responsible groups will feel the full weight of justice.
Injuries are severe. Some of the victims have reportedly lost limbs.
Everybody started running the other way. There were a few people that were running over towards them to help out the injured, and there were some really bad injuries. Some people were very, very badly hurt.
The explosion was so powerful that some of the runners on the course were knocked to the ground, while the majority of those injured are believed to be spectators. The governor of Massachusetts is now asking people to stay home.
We are asking that people stay out of crowds and calmly make their way home.
Police and emergency officials in Boston now dealing with a mass casualty situation as a shaken city tries to come to grips with a violent attack in the heart of the city. Katie Davis, NBC News, Boston.
Central Florida is a hotbed for elite runners. Many were up in Boston racing today. WESH 2 Stephanie Culp continues our team coverage live outside a popular Orlando running store with a witness account. Stephanie.
Yes, and the Track Shack behind me here has been a staple in Orlando's running community for many, many years. A few dozen people who actually trained with what's called the store's Marathon Fest were at the race today, but it appears that everyone is okay. People were glued to the TV inside Orlando's Track Shack. The store has about 50 runners who have trained with Team Track Shack for the Boston Marathon. One of them is Heather Schultz, who was already in her hotel room when the bombs went off.
Something just blew up at... Run!
When I looked out, I could see smoke over the building. I turned the TV on, and sure enough, there was no video yet. I'm very grateful that I'm a fast runner because, you know, this must have happened about an hour after I finished.
Immediately began to worry about friends, fellow runners, and their families. Schultz was one of a couple dozen runners from Central Florida running the race. According to the Boston Marathon's website, 37 runners were from Orlando, 11 from Winter Park, 4 from Port Orange, 3 from Longwood, and 3 from Titusville.
They have people from every state, every nation here running. It was way worse than I had ever imagined. My kids are like freaking out still.
The Track Shack hosts dozens of local races every year. The next one, the Corporate 5K, is Thursday. A whopping 14,000 runners have already registered for the race in downtown Orlando. In a news conference, Orange County Sheriff Jerry Deming said deputies and Orlando police officers will step up their security, not just at the race, but at all big events. And the sheriff says the tragedy in Boston is a good reminder for all citizens to be vigilant.
We want people to look for suspicious behavior, suspicious activities, suspicious packages. These types of events that happen today in Boston, they're not spontaneous events.
And cell phone service in and around the Boston area has been iffy all night. So if you have a relative there and you're having a difficult time getting a hold of them, officials say you can call the number 617-635-4500. Again, that's 617-635-4500. Reporting live in Orlando, Stephanie Kolb, WESH 2 News on the CW18.
And tonight it appears that victims of another tragedy might have been witness to this terror attack. Families of the Newtown shooting victims were reportedly in the VIP stands close to the finish line where the explosion occurred. None of them were injured. Sandy Hook victims were honored at several points along the race, including a 26-second period of silence to open the event and a special marker at the 26-mile point dedicated to the 26 people killed in the massacre. 9 members of the Newtown community also reportedly ran the race. The world used Facebook and Twitter to watch this act of terror play out this afternoon. WESH 2's Martha Sagowski continues our team coverage with a look at some of the most dramatic photos. Martha?
And see, on the news unfolded quickly on social media, where we saw some of the first images of the devastation and horror that took place at the finish line. This was one of the very first images to trend on Twitter. It shows the smoke and bloody aftermath following the blast. This one is a look straight down Boylston Street, capturing the moment of the second explosion. And this photo shows the huge emergency response in Copley Square as paramedics tend to the wounded. More than 130 people injured in this chaos. Boston police are using their Twitter account to ask the public for help, sending this tweet requesting anyone who shot video at the scene turn that over to authorities in the hopes that someone unknowingly caught a glimpse of a possible suspect or some other clue important to this investigation. Various websites are also doing what they can to help. Boston.com set up a Google Doc with a list of hundreds of Boston residents who are offering marathoners a free place to stay if they've been displaced by the tragedy. Just a few examples of social and digital media being used in unexpected ways in the hours after this terrible tragedy. Sion.
Martha, thanks. And WESH 2 will have live coverage from Boston starting tomorrow. Aixa Diaz will be talking to Central Florida runners who witnessed the attack. Look for her report starting on WESH 2 News tomorrow at noon. And we have extensive coverage of the terror attacks online, real-time updates on the investigation, plus the latest pictures and video from Boston. You can like our Facebook page and get the latest information anytime on WESH.com. An Orlando police officer now under investigation accused of striking a pedestrian and leaving the scene. This is video taken from a City of Orlando security camera. That investigating officer says the pedestrian was to blame for crossing Huey Avenue against the crossing signal. WESH 2's Bob Keeling reports the officer was found at fault for leaving.
An OPD investigation found that 36-year-old Tetrish Nunn was at fault for being in the crosswalk against the signal when he was struck by Orlando police officer Michael Fiorentino Tyberski. According to the report, the officer says he stopped to ask Nunn if he was okay. Nunn stated, "Yes, I'm okay," and after 3 minutes, the officer left. After that, while still laying on the sidewalk, Nunn makes a call to 911.
I want to report a police officer who just hit me with his car. Did the officer say he was coming back, or why did he leave if he hit you? He just hit me, and you know what I'm saying? He blamed it on me, and he just took off.
Later, an unidentified woman, not the officer in question, called 911 to report that the man is injured and needs medical attention.
When the officer hit him with his car, kind of like more than a tap, it did break some skin.
Police radio calls indicate the dispatchers had to ask the officer if indeed he was the one who hit the pedestrian. He responds with a question.
And we were just trying to find out if that was you. I'm not there anymore. Who called in?
That crash investigation found none at fault for causing the crash and the officer at fault for leaving the scene. Orlando police tell WESH 2 they can't comment on this ongoing internal investigation into the officer's actions. As for the man struck, Tetrish Nunn, he lists the Coalition for the Homeless as his address. A spokesperson there couldn't verify if he's ever actually stayed there. Reporting in the newsroom, I'm Bob Keeling, WESH 2 News on CW18.
The 10 at 10, checking your first alert forecast now with Chief Meteorologist Tony Manolfi. And Tony, a warm night outside across the area.
Yeah, well said. I tell you what, we even have a couple of offshore showers and storms. So watch out for coastal Brevard and a few showers there southwest of the Winter Haven area. Not a whole lot going on, and we are expecting this to dwindle down here over the next half hour or so, south and west of Winter Haven, then pulling out of our viewing area. There are those warm temps, still 72 Sanford, 79 Winter Haven, 78 over towards Leesburg. The hour-by-hour forecast, a little bit of fog developing after 3 o'clock in the morning. Coming up over the next couple of minutes, we're going to talk about the rain's impact over the weekend on our area drought, if drier weather is going to be sticking around, and when our next cold front is set to arrive. Sion, back to you.
Tony, thanks. Covering Osceola County, a registered sex offender accused of molesting 2 teenage brothers. Police say Robert Grafton already served 15 years in a Pennsylvania prison in a similar case. The boys' parents thought Grafton was their friend, letting them stay with him in his time of need, but authorities say Grafton deceived the family, gaining the 13-year-old and 14-year-old's trust and buying them candy, clothes, and cell phones. Detectives say the abuse occurred for nearly a year. He's now in the Osceola County Jail without bond. Lost in the chaos tonight, rumors of cell phone service shutdowns and wireless gridlock after the Boston Marathon attack.
Yeah, it was loud. It was really, really loud, and then people, just chaos everywhere.
Next at 10, some of the most dramatic images from the ground and the new way thousands of people are connecting with their missing loved ones. Then people at one local beach on alert after the first shark bite of the season. Plus, trouble in the land of magic. Why safety concerns at one Disney park forced a popular ride to shut down. You're watching WESH 2 News on CW18.
Closed captioning of this CW18 program is sponsored by Universal Orlando Resort.
Local, live, late breaking. This is WESH 2 News on CW18 at 10 with Sion Rhodes and First Alert Chief Meteorologist Tony Manolfi. This is WESH 2 News on CW18 at 10.
Tonight, countless stories of confusion and chaos after 2 bombs exploded at the Boston Marathon. And tonight, a raw and graphic look at the panic that ensued.
It was loud. It was really, really loud, and then people, just chaos everywhere.
And there were just families all around us with kids, I mean, yelling and screaming, and I mean, we just wanted to try and get away as quick as possible.
Hey, there's gotta be people hurt up. It went off, and me and him, like, because we were rooting on our friend, we were like, oh yeah, like, go, and then it was like, boom, and then, you know, both of us, like, we've been to Afghanistan, you expect that. Yeah, I didn't expect that here, and everyone started screaming and running towards us, and I was like, dude, what's going on? And everyone was like a bomb, and me and him jumped over the railing and ran down there.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
With 3 people dead and at least 130 injured, people around the country are reaching out to loved ones in the area to find out if they're okay. Earlier tonight, there were reports that cell phone service was shut down because of fears that the bombs were detonated remotely with a phone, but cell phone companies say service is just operating slowly because of the heavy traffic in the aftermath of the attacks. Tonight, Google has a new way to help people find their loved ones missing after the attack. You can enter the name of someone you're looking for into the Google Person Finder. The site currently tracking nearly 5,000 records. We've got a link to it where you can find it on WESH.com. Tonight, the search is on for a man seen on video breaking into at least 4 homes. Port Orange police say the burglar would ring the doorbell, and when no one answered, he would break in. Police tell us the man stole several items, all small things that could be easily carried away. Neighbors hope the burglar is caught soon.
Concern?
To some extent, yeah. I mean, a bunch of punks running around, I don't know, busting in doors and things like that. We have a security system, but still like to catch the guys, you know.
The man is said to have gotten away in a newer model white Toyota Corolla. If you see anyone suspicious or suspicious vehicles in your neighborhood, you can call police. Financial help continues to pour in for the Florida toddler who lost her feet in a lawn mowing accident. 2-year-old Ireland Nugent's dad accidentally backed over her with a lawnmower outside their Palm Harbor home last week. The Tampa Bay Times reports a church in Clearwater raised $16,000 for her medical care. And ex-wrestler and amputee Steve Chamberlain told the newspaper he's prepared to supply the little girl with a lifetime of top-quality prosthetics. Volusia County saw its first shark bite of the year over the weekend. Beach Patrol says 21-year-old Joshua White was in the water in New Smyrna Beach when a shark bit him on the hand. He is expected to be okay. Last year, Brevard County had just one more shark attack than Volusia County, making it #1 for bites. 2 rides at Disneyland in California, including the famous Space Mountain, remain closed, and the company faces more than $200,000 in fines related to employee safety. State regulators issued citations for 3 rides on Friday. Disneyland Resort says the temporary closures of Space Mountain, Matterhorn bobsleds, and Soarin' over California were voluntary and were made out of an abundance of caution. The Matterhorn reopened yesterday. There are no reported problems at any of the local Disney World parks. Tonight, we're getting a good look at the ship NASA will send to land on an asteroid, the Orion, already being built at Kennedy Space Center. A mission could happen as early as 2021. NASA hoping to catch an asteroid and send astronauts to it in the Orion.
3 years ago today, the president was here in an empty high bay, challenging us to go to an asteroid by 2025. Today, this is a world-class production facility with a flight article, a flight vehicle, Orion, getting ready to fly next year.
During the test, Orion will travel 3,600 miles from Earth, farther than any crewed spacecraft has gone in more than 40 years. Checking your first alert forecast now, and after kind of a gray and rainy weekend, we had some sun today.
Yeah, I tell you what, a nice shot of a sunset here across the Seminole County. This is from Florida Ag Biz. Good looking shot right there. And it's nice to have some tranquil weather after a very active Sunday afternoon with plenty of tornado warnings and a lot of lightning and very heavy rain. Now, we do have a little bit of thunder and lightning down across South Florida, and some of that moisture is actually trying to sneak back up into our viewing area. In fact, it's doing so here across extreme southwestern Polk County. We're also going to continue to monitor now a little bit of moisture here just south of Mickle. There's actually a little bit of an outflow boundary that's riding north and trying to instigate a couple more showers. So I don't want to rule out a little bit of rain there for southern Brevard County as this impulse continues to lift to the north and over towards Winter Haven, just to your west, Lakeland. There are a couple of showers lurking to your south. We'll watch this corridor along 37 for about the next half hour to an hour's time frame. Now, the big story yesterday, on top of all that severe weather and lighting, the impressive rainfall totals. Sun Tree there in Brevard County getting multiple reports now of anywhere from about 5 to 7 3/4 inches of rain. Palm Shores, 5.5 inches of rain. Over towards Truliota, nearly 4 inches of rain. Edgewater, just over 2 inches of rain. And the east side of Winter Park, just over 2 inches of rain. So it begs the question, where are we now with our soil drought index? And we're all in the normal range for the spring season. Now, you got to be careful with that. What that basically means is we're getting closer to normal for the spring season. But when you take a look at the overall surplus or deficits, we are still well behind here across Central Florida. And with another dry stretch, we can be right back in trouble. So we've got a little weak disturbance going by to our northeast tonight. That's going to actually bring in somewhat drier air. So any moisture late tonight or tomorrow is going to stay off towards the southwest of Central Florida. And the concern after midnight, a little bit of patchy fog come daybreak tomorrow morning. I want you to check in with meteorologist Jason Brewer in the morning to get the update for that. 65 in the Villages, 66 in Sanford, and 67 in Melbourne. Here's the setup for late tonight and tomorrow. There's that area of disturbed weather pulling away. Most of the moisture on Tuesday, well south of Central Florida. There could be a little more patchy fog as we get into Tuesday night and Wednesday morning. But overall, I think we're going to be in pretty good shape. Forecast high temperatures for tomorrow. A nudge cooler along the coast with that onshore flow. You work your way inland, though, still running 85 to 90. Looking ahead now, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Onshore flow, if you're taking it to the beach, just watch those dangerous rip currents. By Thursday, a little more moisture now sneaking up. Could impact especially the western side of our viewing area and along the west side of the peninsula. Then a front arrives on Friday. That will surely increase our rainfall chances as we get into Friday, Saturday, and maybe even lingering on into Sunday. So patchy fog in the morning, mainly west of Orlando. Lunchtime temperature coming in at 82. 5 o'clock, a warm afternoon, 85 to about 90 degrees. On into Wednesday, not a bad day. 85 degrees, a little bit of morning fog. That burns off fairly quickly. Then we head into Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Here comes that cold front. Rain chances are going up.
WESH 2 News on CW18 Weather is sponsored by Universal Orlando Resort.
Remember, you can wake up with WESH. Our sunrise crew starts at 4:30 in the morning with overnight news and real-time weather and traffic. We're staying on top of new developments on our stories tonight, including the latest from the terror attack at Boston. Tonight, WESH 2 has learned an 8-year-old child is one of 3 people killed in the blast. More than 130 people were injured, and at least one person, a Saudi national, reportedly being questioned in the hospital in connection with the attacks. We will have an update on this breaking story over on WESH 2 News at 11. And WESH has a crew headed to Boston right now. Live coverage from Mike Diaz tomorrow at noon on WESH. Everybody Loves Raymond is next here on CW18. Thanks for watching. Have a great night.
Thanks for watching WESH 2 News, honored with 3 Emmy Awards, including Best Coverage in Breaking News.
Closed captioning of this CW18 program is sponsored by Toyota of Orlando.